Hey, this is Mad Movie Mark of the Mad Movie Mark Movie Review. Thank you for joining me as I review the 1922 silent German horror film Nosferatu, A Symphony of Horror. Hey, well, I hope my review isn't that bad. Nosferatu is on the 1001 movies you must see before you die list, which is a list that I am slowly trying to get through. And I thought this movie was absolutely incredible. I am not normally a fan of horror movies, but I thought this one was done really well. It builds an incredible atmosphere. The acting is phenomenal. The use of shadows is impeccable. I really like older movies because they don't have the computer animated graphics. They have to use shadows, they have to use practical special effects, they have to use camera tricks, lighting, you speed up the camera, you use double exposure. There's a lot of that in older silent films, and I really enjoyed it, and I really think they did a really great job with it here. There's a lot of iconic uses of shadows in this movie, which are absolutely spectacular. I will say that I watched this on the Internet Movie Archive. You can pretty much watch this anywhere. It's in public domain. You can watch it on YouTube if you want. I wanted to view it in color though. There are certain versions of it that use colored lenses and certain versions of it that are just in black and white. And I wanted the color version. The only one I could find that had subtitles, because the writing on the screen is in German. So I wanted one with subtitles. This was the only version that I could find, and the music in this version is absolutely terrible. It is so bad. It took me out of the movie, but luckily this is my third time watching Nosferatu, the 1922 version, so I knew that it wasn't normal for this music to be in this movie, so I didn't judge it based on that. Now, a really sad part about silent films is like 75% of all silent films that were created are considered lost to history because of a couple studio fires that happened, and because if a movie did poorly back during this day, they would just like film over it, a whole new movie over the old film, get rid of the one that they had before. So we don't fully know what we've lost through history when it comes to film. Like, there are movies that we think we've lost. There's old like wives' tales about movies that were supposed to have happened, that were supposed to have existed, that we have no proof of. But I say that because with a lot of these silent films, they either had no original soundtrack or the soundtrack has not been fully recovered. Some of it's been lost, some of it's been found. I think with Nosferatu, only a portion of the original soundtrack existed. So as they've done remasters and as they've re-released this movie, they've done like new soundtracks with it, and people have recorded their own sound for it. And this version was absolutely terrible. I don't recommend watching the movie on the Internet Movie Archive. If you want to watch it for free, go watch it somewhere else, where you can have a much better viewing experience. That being said, this is an unauthorized adaptation of Dracula. I think a lot of people know this. The company and the director of this movie were sued by Bram Stoker's estate, and they lost, and it was stated that all copies of Nosferatu were to be destroyed. Now, when they did that, there was already a couple versions of it that were released to the United States, and those were not destroyed, and those were held onto, and thank God for that, because this movie really lays the groundwork for horror movies. It really lays the structure for pretty much every horror movie that's going to come out after this. Uses a lot of what they use in Nosferatu, and it's hard to think what cinema would have been like if we didn't have Nosferatu. That being said, the 75% of silent films that were lost, I wonder what cinema would have been like if we hadn't lost all of those as well. But here we are. So Nosferatu is an absolutely phenomenal movie. The acting is spectacular. Like, the atmosphere building is phenomenal. This movie is about a guy named Thomas who is sent to Transylvania by his boss to meet a Count Orlok. Orlok in this movie is supposed to be like Count Dracula. They changed his name because this movie is set in Germany, and they wanted to use a more German name, and they couldn't use Dracula because it's an unauthorized adaptation. So they used Count Orlok. Now, Orlok wants to buy a house adjacent to the house that Thomas lives in, so they send Thomas to kind of broker the deal and get this done. When he arrives in Transylvania, the person who's taking him refuses to get him anywhere close to Orlok's house, so he has to kind of make the trek over to that direction. He winds up in like this pub, and he tells everyone at the pub that he's going to go visit Count Orlok, and they all act shocked and appalled and dismayed at the fact that someone is willingly going to Count Orlok's castle. So we got some red flags here that maybe you shouldn't be going to Orlok's castle. Maybe there's a problem here. When he gets to Orlok's castle, he meets Orlok, who is like he is not the like menacing Dracula that you would assume like a Dracula would be. He's very awkward. He's very like keeps to himself a little bit. At least at this point in the movie, he is like very an unapproachable type of person. During the night, Thomas ends up getting like this bite on his neck, and he assumes that it's mosquitoes, I believe is what they say. But he has a book on vampires, and there's a lot of red flags here that Orlok is a vampire that I don't know if Thomas isn't picking up in the beginning of the movie, or he just kind of shrugs it off because he has no reason to believe that Orlok is a vampire. As the movie goes along, though, Thomas starts to realize that maybe he is dealing with a vampire. Orlok ends up going to the neighborhood where he wants to buy this house. He takes a boat there, and on the boat there's like this rat infestation that follows him. It's like a plague that follows him on this boat. All the people on the boat are like killed. When he gets to the town, people start indiscriminately dying in this town left and right. There's like tons of caskets that they're carrying out of people just all throughout the town, these people dying. Orlok at one point ends up seeing a picture of Thomas's wife and says, "Wow, that's a mighty great neck she has there." But you know, isn't awkward or weird? Maybe that's how they talked back then. Lady's got a fine neck on her. So he ends up like falling for this wife, and he ends up wanting to like pursue Thomas's wife. Thomas's wife ends up like sleepwalking and having visions, and sees Count Orlok in her sleep and sees like what he's doing and what he's up to. At the end of the movie, it ends up being a situation where Count Orlok is can be killed by the sunlight, so he's not just like harmed in the sun, he can be killed in the sun. And he doesn't actually like turn other people into vampires like you would see in other vampire type movies. He actually, when he like bites someone, he kills them. So it's not like he's turning them, he just kills people, sucks their blood and kills them. So at the end of the movie, Thomas's wife ends up luring Nosferatu, Count Orlok, into the sun, where he ends up dying and she ends up getting bit and she dies as well. And that's basically the entire movie. I love this movie. I thought it was way better than the remake of Nosferatu, which I also saw. I thought the ending was much better done. It's a lot less gory. I like the fact that Nosferatu doesn't speak, because I think there's some sort of mystique around him not speaking, whereas in the new movie, he has like this very old world type of language, type of accent that he has. And I like the fact that you never hear, obviously it's a silent film, but you never hear him speak. When he's not on screen, you kind of wonder where Nosferatu is, which is the great sign of like a villain in a movie, is where he's not on screen. You always wonder like where he is. Could he be around the corner? Could he be lurking in the darkness? He's just a really menacing character, and he's a really menacing, evil character in this movie. Like the use of shadow is absolutely amazing. The acting is great. The script is amazing. He kind of the fact that he comes out at night and he can die in the sun, I think is also really good, because it's a vulnerable part of someone's life when they're asleep, and when it's nighttime, you kind of get this same Freddy Krueger type atmosphere. When the children are asleep, that's when he attacks. So when people are asleep, that's like when he is on the prowl, and that's when he's attacking. And I really like that part of his character. I really like that they made him kind of this night walker who just preys on people. I thought the movie was exceptionally well done. I know this movie has been, they've like remastered this movie a few times, but if you compare this to like other movies that are silent films, the picture quality is absolutely amazing. Even if I go back and try to find like the older versions of this movie that I can find, the picture quality is absolutely amazing. The like I said, the lighting effects, the visual effects are phenomenal. It's really a step above what other movies from the silent era were doing. The director is F.W. Murnau, I believe is how you pronounce his name, and he also did The Last Laugh, which I've also seen, and The Sunrise, a Song of Two Humans, which I will eventually need to watch because it's also on this list. But amazing director. This is a phenomenal movie. There's not a whole lot I can say about this movie that hasn't already been said because it's so popular. It's so ingrained in society. It's so ingrained in like entertainment and media that so many people have seen this movie, especially with the remake that just happened. My wife wanted to see the remake, so she watched the 1922 version, this version, which she would have never watched if there was no remake. And she probably also enjoys this silent film more than the remake, and this 1922 version is the oldest movie she's ever seen. I don't think she's ever seen a silent film before, and she enjoys it more than the new remake as well. So it transcends generations. You can watch it today and still really enjoy it. Some of the stuff you're going to see is very cheesy, like he carries his coffin around with him because he has to have like the dirt that he was buried in, like near him or something. And a lot of it is by today's standards, like you're probably gonna laugh at it or you're gonna think that it's funny. But the atmosphere that it builds, it really is a horror film. It really does keep you kind of on the edge of your seat. I thought it was phenomenal. It's a 10 out of 10. I hope you join me next time when I review a movie called Foolish Wives. Thank you.